The Sabeel are actually water fountains. They are humble and modest acts of generosity. They're these fountains that you would find outside of an Emirati house. And they're there to offer fresh water and a moment of respite to thirsty traveler, passerby, friends and strangers. And we thought, what a great element to have in our Expo site to tell this cultural story of hospitality, but also to talk about a very precious resource like water, which is very much at the center of our themes. From the early days, we at Expo wanted to see how could we offer opportunities to young talents, designers from the region to showcase their talent on such a global stage. And hence was the idea of a design competition was born to call on regional and local talent to reimagine the Sabeel for Expo 2020.
Art Jameel is a civic-minded organization based between Saudi and the UAE. We run the first and only contemporary arts museum in Dubai called Jameel Art Center, and we have partnered with Expo on Sabeel 2020. We were shocked at the number of submissions that came in because there aren't really people who specialize in drinking fountain design. So for us to receive that number of rich submissions was really rewarding. It spoke to the universality of the Sabeel 2020 project and its themes.
It felt like we won, and then I gave him a call and I was like, did we just win? He's like, yes! I just couldn't believe it because it was my first time, I think, winning something like this. It was too big for me. So.
No, don't say that.
Faissal and Alia were a really pleasant surprise. He's a fashion designer and artist, and she's a jewelry designer.
There was a really cool parallel, Alia's work is much more feminine and organic, and the tiles have this very geometric thing, yet they both have these square units that kind of tie them in together, and they're both also inspired by weaving. So it's as if you're weaving. This is why the portion in front is where the design is, and then it becomes lines. So it's as if you're weaving, you know how the warp is lines, and then you weave the design on it, and then it's lines again. This is what the design is, but yes.
The second winner, Architecture and Other Things, was actually very interesting because it tied together the themes of nature and sustainability.
The spherical form of the project comes from our first sketches where we thought about the object as, because we understood that there would be multiples of them, and we sort of imagined these pebbles in the landscape, or essentially rocks in the landscape. We sort of very quickly started to form this rock into something that can be both functional, that can hold the plants, as well as be able to kind of stand on its own and allow people to sort of walk around. Also as a form of wayfinding, so it's very identifiable as an object. So we can also imagine that the garden grows over time and sometimes sort of needs some maintenance, sort of becomes a living condition.
The artistic fountains were commissioned directly to two very distinct artists, Dana Awartani and Nasser Nasrallah.
So Letter to Water is one of the more quirky designs by Nasser Nasrallah. It's based on us as people really giving our appreciation to water, where he's written this very poetic letter in Arabic, English and in Braille. So it's fully inclusive to all of our visitors. And the actual box or the actual Sabeels themselves are based on the Emirates Post box. So when you come and see it, you'll really understand how it's very, very explicit in the way that we're really describing this letter to water and really playing on that idea.
يعني وجعلنا من الماء كل شيء حي. فالماء أساس كل شيء، أساس الحياة. الكرة الأرضية أغلبها ماء، جسم الإنسان. فبدون الماء ما في شيء بيصير. فحبيت أو تخيلت أن لو الماء حب يخبرنا شيء، يتكلم، شو الشيء اللي ممكن يقوله. فعلى أساسه كتبت هاي الرسالة بلغة التخاطب مع الإنسان.
The Well by Dana Awartani is really a celebration of Islamic architecture. She really wanted to emphasize the importance, and I think it's something that is very important to her in her work. As you approach the well, you're really taken aback by this boulder that has been carved into to create this amazing geometry as you look down, as you take your water and the water trickles down into it. It's an amazing experience.
I believe that the well covers many topics and themes that Expo 2020 Dubai is highlighting, such as sustainability and the future. And I think with the well, it's a reminder to society how we used to have a certain level of respect and reverence for water and how our ancestors used to treat water. And I think there's a lot for us to learn from that and how we can take that knowledge and apply it to modern day society and do better.
If I were to advise artists from the region, I would say never underestimate the power of an open call. Open calls have always been a way for us to discover new talent and for them to be challenged by a brief that isn't necessarily indigenous to their practice. So you might be a fashion designer or you might be a jewelry designer, but you might come out designing the Sabeel 2020.